Hey, you're watching the LitTube channel, and this is Justin breaking down day two of the 2020 NFL Draft. We've got some thoughts on it, and obviously too many picks to go through all of them with you in an order like I was doing with the other videos. But I will just say that this started off with the Bengals drafting T. Higgins and the Colts drafted Michael Pittman, and then we had DeAndre Swift go off the board of the Lions. Those were the first three picks of the second round. And obviously, this day two covered the entire second round and the entire third round. Third round even had some compensatory picks towards the end. So, Jordan, I want to pass this off to you. Can we get your initial thoughts on day two of the draft?
I thought day two really reflected how deep this draft was. One of the deepest drafts in decades. And you kind of saw a lot of the guys that went early in the second round could have gone on day one. Even some of the guys that went late in the second round could have gone day one. And you saw that guys like DeAndre Swift, Xavier McKinney, even Kyle Duggar by the Patriots could have easily gone on day one. And I thought it just reflects how deep this draft was, especially the receivers going early and then late, all the defensive players that were coming off the board late. What about you, Gerald? Any particular players that really stood out to you at all?
Jalen Hurts specifically, because it was at that moment it hit me that of the Lamar effect. You have a lot of the more mobile quarterbacks taken off the round, and a lot of the traditional quarterbacks are still waiting. I mean, you still have Jake Fromm waiting, but a lot of mobility at quarterback out there. I'm interested to see what the Eagles do. Is it going to be a situation like Joe Flacco where people are just itching for Jalen Hurts to start, or is it going to be maybe he sit behind, do a little Taysom Hill work? I don't know, but I am interested about that. I thought the Ravens did really good adding another linebacker, covering that offensive line hole, and getting a receiver. I thought they did great, and we talked about that in the other video. The other aspect is, what the hell was going on with Roger Goodell? Was he, drunk? What was going on?
He was tired.
At one point, no, dude, at one point he was, hugging the TV. What the hell? Oh, my God. But, yeah, Justin, what are your thoughts, man?
Well, I mean, starting with Jalen Hurts, and I already did, my own video on that, but it's funny that you were talking about, the potential for Eagles fans, clamor for Hurts to, start. But I was actually watching on YouTube, some fan reactions to that pick, and they were all pissed. They, wanted the Eagles to draft Mims or, some other player. They didn't want them to draft a quarterback. There's a lot of pissed off Eagles fans about that pick. And I will admit, I didn't think it was the best landing spot that made the most sense, but maybe the Eagles are just concerned about Carson Wentz's durability, and they just want to have, another Nick Foles that can be pressed into duty if anything happens to Wentz. So that's my take on that. As far as the draft, the day two itself on a bigger picture, I want to talk about the Rams a little bit since that's my team. And I really like what they did with Cam Akers. I think he's going to be a workhorse back, just like I think Dobbins is going to be a workhorse back for the Ravens. But then, the receiver pick of Van Jefferson, I was like, what the hell, man? Because, Denzel Mims was still on the board, and he's a much better prospect. So I didn't understand that at all. But then they followed it up with two defenders, one of which went to Alabama. So, I mean, overall, it was a mixed bag. I think it really could have been a great night if they did something different instead of drafting Van Jefferson, because I just don't have a great feeling about that pick panning out. As far as some of the other picks, I mean, I was intrigued by what the Patriots didn't do, draft a quarterback.
Exactly.
They, really went heavy on defense and tight end. And the tight end part kind of had me scratching my head, but I don't know. What do you think about that, Gerald?
Actually, I do have few thoughts on it. It wasn't – I mean, yes, Tom Brady wasn't playing to the level he was, but, I mean, the Tennessee Titans offense really, it took out the Patriots. I mean, I think there were a lot of holes in the defense. I think the Patriots are being smart because let's look at it like this. Tom Brady was a sixth-round draft pick. They're not going to just – I mean, even Jimmy Garoppolo, what was he, second or third? He was a day two guy. So, I mean, the Patriots waiting, especially with a lot of the top prototypical quarterbacks still on the board, definitely tomorrow, definitely early. I think they played it smart, and again, the anticipation for who's going to replace Tom Brady continues. Jordan?
I thought the steal for this draft was Zach Bond, who went 10th pick in the 3rd round. This is a guy that could have easily gone to the Ravens on day one if the linebackers had kind of been drafted. And the Saints ended up getting him. And I think the Ravens weren't as high on him as I think other people thought they would have been, because I think they would have drafted him 60 overall when they in the 2nd round when they dealt that pick for the Patriots. They really felt strongly about Zach Bond, who's an outstanding outside linebacker from Wisconsin, who ended up going, obviously, to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's a good pick for them. I think definitely helps that rush. Again, I'm just like you. I'm surprised the Ravens didn't get him as well, but they definitely made up for it elsewhere. Justin?
I mean, if you want to talk about steals in day 2, I'm looking at, surprisingly, the Raiders getting Bryan Edwards. They drafted 3 receivers between day 1 and day 2. In this case, they had Lynn Bowden and Bryan Edwards going back to back. I really like Bryan Edwards, but my question to John Gruden and the Raiders management is just like, what is the point of getting 3 receivers in between day 1 and day 2? I don't really understand what they're trying to do there. And also, I had this question with the Broncos because they drafted a receiver in day 2 as well after they got Jerry Jeudy. It was KJ Hamler, I believe, they picked. And I don't know, this whole idea of loading up on one position when you have so many needs for your team. I don't really understand that concept, but maybe it's just kind of hedging your bets. It's okay, if this guy doesn't pan out, we have the other guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I saw that was a theme that was interesting to me as well. And I also think the Jets to come away with Denzel Mims when they did was just great for them as well. And that finally Darnold's going to have more of a weapons for that Jets offense.
Yeah, you know who else really improved me outside of the Bengals, actually, because we're gonna get to that probably in a later episode. The Bengals impressed me, but the Dolphins, they've got Tua. They virtually just built the offensive line before our eyes, added a weapon or two. I mean, it's just the Dolphins are really. I think they tanked last season on purpose. At this point, I have no questions. They knew what they were doing. They tanked the season, and here's what you get. Impressive. I'm really impressed with how they've done this. And again, the Bengals have done really well. Again, they virtually just rebuilt their whole offense right before us in 2 nights. Jordan?
Yeah, I thought the Cleveland Browns, I'll give them a good high grade for this draft so far. I thought they went out and they got a lot of they got 2 offensive linemen yesterday, but with the trade and with the player they drafted, and today they got a safety, a very, very strong safety that they can put in that team. So they're really putting the weapons in place now to, build around the rest of that super talent they have on that offense.
Yeah. The AFC North is going to be pretty crazy next year. Like I said, the Steelers, they got 2 linebackers. I felt like the Steelers really just shit the bed this draft. I mean, obviously this is only day 2. I mean, it's still all day tomorrow. They might surprise us, but they haven't done anything impressive. I mean, the receiver that they got, he might pan out, but I really would have thought they would have gone for a quarterback. Really surprised they haven't yet. But again, there's a lot of quarterbacks still on the board. I guess maybe they're waiting for one of those guys.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned the Steelers because when they did that Chase Claypool pick, I was actually thinking they could go with Jalen Hurts here, one of these other quarterbacks that are still.
We were sitting here thinking they were.
Ultimately, they didn't do it though. I guess they don't care to draft Ben's heir apparent. But from last year, it didn't look like Mason Rudolph was the guy. So
yeah, he's not it. Definitely not Mason.
And I wasn't overly impressed with Alex Highsmith, who they took 102. I thought he's from Charlotte, which is a small school to begin with, and he just didn't look to me like he has the sort of power to get around guys like a Orlando Brown or something like that routinely without help. I mean, that's an issue for me. I know that they had T.J. Watt, obviously, so it takes a little bit of pressure off them. But to me, off the player went right after him, Davian Taylor to the Eagles, was much more impressive on tape. Which is my opinion.
I also thought
I agree.
draft was an indictment on Kerryon Johnson since the Lions drafted DeAndre Swift. It's clear they don't think much of Kerryon, and he's probably on the way out soon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely a lot of like these rookies going to be pressing up on the veterans and boxing some of them out. Maybe we're going to see some trades, some free agents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talked about day 2. On day 3, I'm interested to see. Still curious to see what the Ravens add. Patriots, again, the quarterback is the big question there. So, got a lot still to cover, man. I mean, done pretty good, but yeah.
I think there's also some veteran quarterbacks that are still on teams that could be dealt tomorrow. Guys like Andy Dalton, for instance, who obviously won't have a starting job when the season opens up, that still have ball left in there, you know, can still play some football.
Do you think a guy like Matt Judon could be potentially traded, or are we good with keeping him this year?
I don't think they'll get what they want for him at this point. I think they're a better team with him than if they trade for somebody now, unless they were to get a player for him. I don't think they would have gotten a second or third round pick for him otherwise had they dealt him earlier. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So biggest thing you guys are looking for day 3? Because I'll tell you, for me, it's just to see whether or not Bill Belichick used a draft pick on a quarterback.
I'm pretty sure that's literally all of America right now. who's going to be Brady's heir? But you know, that being said, the backup that they had from, I forget the kid's name, it escapes me right now. He wasn't half bad, huh? Stidham. Yeah. He wasn't half bad, so who knows? Maybe
there's a lot of speculation that Bill is just going to say screw it and like make him the starter and maybe not even draft anybody. But I don't know. I also think like it's good when you don't have a clear number 1 guy at quarterback to like make some competition in training camp, you know?
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to draft somebody or sign some kind of free agent to really spark that competition.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
yeah, I mean, I guess that does it for day 2. And I'm sure we will do another one of these videos for day 3, just kind of talking about big shocks, sleeper picks. But make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned.